Certainly. I mean, I think it's a sham. And I think that's what there
Well,
once
whether or not,
was
I'm
a
not saying
period.
that's happening in this case, obviously, we don't know, but.
No, no. I mean, from the 50,000 foot view, what once was a very standard approach to government, whereby there was some level of just a distinctness between the White House and the Department of Justice is no more. That went away a long time ago. I remind people, and rightfully so, there will be Republicans on this same panel right now that would say, well, Joe Biden pardoned his son. Well, the fact is his Justice Department indicted him. And Joe Biden, rightfully or wrongfully, history will dictate.
The DOJ is now reportedly investigating Gavin Newsom's wife, and the timing and context of that investigation tells you everything about how this administration is using the Department of Justice as a political weapon. Bakari Sellers went on CNN to break down exactly what is happening here, and to draw the clear line between a Department of Justice that used to operate with independence from the White House and what we are watching right now. Let's get into this, and I'll give you my full thoughts on the other side.
Joining us now, former Trump White House Communications Director Elizabeth Griffin, former Trump administration official Matt Mowers, and CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers. Elizabeth, first of all, what's your reaction? I mean, it's fascinating her saying that there's all these people, even if they don't inform blindness, they know what the president wants, and they're all jockeying for these roles.
That's the most fascinating part. Listen, we've seen that there's a history of targeting Trump's adversaries, from James Comey to others, but the fact that there is this political incentive and that there are officials senior level at the Justice Department that may be pursuing investigations for the purposes of getting in the good graces of the president, I think tells you all you need to know about this Department of Justice. That said, based on Paul's reporting, there's a lot we don't know. Watching that Newsom statement, it did feel like a politician trying to get ahead of something, trying to get ahead of a story that may come out. So we may learn something that was in fact untoward, that was in fact wrongdoing with the wife. But right now it looks very, very questionable.
Bakari, the acting attorney general, declined to say if the DOJ is investigating. Where do you see this heading?
So first of all, let me just disabuse anybody of the notion that, it's a good thing for the FBI or DOJ to be investigating you. That there's no such thing, even if you're running for the president of the United States, of anybody wanting them to go into every single thing that you've done. We refer to it as a problem and a solution that doesn't have a fix. So no, Gavin Newsom, even if he's running for president, doesn't want the DOJ investigating him. This is something that Donald Trump has done for a very long period of time. This is something that Donald Trump has done by attacking his adversaries. And when you look at the other side of the coin, when you look at somebody who's made, let's just take, for example, trades on the stock market where he benefits from them, or his son's actually going into crypto or meme coins or joining boards. This is not something that Gavin Newsom is known for. And I've come on this show and I've lambasted Gavin Newsom before. I think that when Gavin Newsom walks in a room, he will tell you that he's the smartest person and most handsome person in the room. We'll sort that out in a Democratic primary. But do I believe Gavin Newsom is a crook compared to Donald Trump? Definitely not. And this is beyond the pale, particularly when you target someone's wife, as they're doing. This is just something that Donald Trump does. And this is why many Americans are souring towards Donald Trump.
Matt, what's your perspective on this?
Well, look, I agree with Bakari. No one ever wants to be under federal investigation. Certainly not, the spouse of the governor of California. But, look, Governor Newsom's currently using this to raise money for his political apparatus. I received an email at 3:23 p.m. Saying Donald Trump's targeting me, send me $20. I refrained from giving him $20, by the way, but I'm sure many others who are aligned with him are doing so. And so he's seeking to get ahead of it and turn it to a political advantage. But the fact is there's some reporting out that this may have even started under the Biden administration. So I think there's so much more we need to know before you can draw any conclusions about it related to the Justice Department. But I'll tell you, politically, Gavin Newsom's trying to turn lemons into lemonade right now, use it as a chance to try to play a victim and then try to ingratiate himself to the liberal base around the country in advance of a presidential run.
Matt, do you think this Department of Justice does go after, Paula was talking about district attorneys or others, aggressive prosecutors who know what the president wants and might be investigating folks in order to curry favor? Do you believe that that is potentially happening?
I mean, based on what has come out so far, it doesn't seem like that's happening here. And let's not forget, there was a lot of outrage when John Bolton had federal agents at his door one morning. Everyone assumed it was a political payback because he wrote some tough stuff about Donald Trump. And once again, turned out that it was an investigation under mishandling of classified documents that actually started under the Biden Justice Department. He now has entered a plea deal on those charges. So, I think it's still too soon to draw any conclusions on that. And I think as the facts have come out so far, it doesn't seem that way. You've got a former chief of staff who right now is probably talking to some federal agents. And those folks know a lot of information about the First Family of California. I'm sure they're happy to give that information off if it's going to actually benefit themselves.
Bakari, we've certainly seen this Department of Justice go after people that the president would like to see targeted.
Certainly. I think it's a sham. And I think that's what there once
whether or not,
was.
I'm not saying that's happening in this case, obviously. We don't know. But
No. From the 50,000-foot view, what once was just a very standard approach to government, whereby there was some level of just a distinctness between the White House and the Department of Justice, is no more. That went away a long time ago. I remind people, and rightfully so, there will be Republicans on this same panel right now that would say, well, Joe Biden pardoned his son. Well, the fact is his Justice Department indicted him. And Joe Biden, rightfully or wrongfully, history will dictate that, actually pardoned his son. But the Department of Justice did what they needed to do. I wish we could get back to a department or a situation where we had norms, where we're not there yet. And Donald Trump.
Let's be precise about what Bakari Sellers was describing, because it is important. He was not saying that nobody in government should ever face investigation. He was making a structural point about what has happened to the relationship between the White House and the Department of Justice under this administration. There used to be a norm, imperfect, sometimes violated, but widely understood, that the DOJ operated with some independence from presidential preferences. That norm is gone, and what replaced it is a department where senior officials reportedly understand what the president wants and pursue investigations as a way of getting into his good graces. That is not justice. That is a loyalty machine with law enforcement powers. And the Gavin Newsom situation fits a very recognizable pattern. Newsom has been one of the most prominent Democratic voices in the country. He has been openly critical of this administration. He is widely seen as a potential presidential candidate, and now his wife is under DOJ scrutiny. That combination of factors, prominent critic, future electoral threat, investigation targeting family, is not a coincidence. This is exactly what Bakari meant when he said Donald Trump uses the Department of Justice to exact pain on his enemies. It happened with James Comey. It happened with prosecutors and attorneys general across the country. And now it appears to be happening here. Matt Morris tried to deflect by pointing out that Newsom sent out a fundraising email about it and is trying to turn it into a political advantage. That may be true. Politicians do that. But fundraising off an attack does not mean the attack isn't an attack. Those two things can both be true simultaneously. And the fact that someone is trying to politically survive an investigation that appears to be politically motivated does not make the investigation less politically motivated. Moores also raised the possibility that this investigation started under the Biden administration, which would be relevant of context if true. But here's the honest answer to that. We do not know yet. And the track record of this administration claiming prior investigations justify current ones while also tearing down every norm that previously governed how investigations were handled does not exactly inspire confidence in that framing. What we do know is that the acting Attorney General declined to even confirm or deny whether the DOJ is investigating. That kind of stonewalling does not suggest an independent process operating transparently. Then there is the broader structural issue that Bakari raised, and it is one that cannot be overstated. Joe Biden's DOJ indicted his own son. Whatever you think of that decision, it happened. The Department of Justice pursued a case against a member of the president's own family. That is what independence looks like, even when it is uncomfortable. This DOJ could not be more different. It created a billion-dollar slush fund that Senate Republicans called a galactic blunder. It has been used to go after prosecutors, political opponents, and now apparently the spouse of a governor who happens to be a likely presidential contender. The contrast between what independence looks like and what we are watching right now is not subtle. And then there is the Iran deal discussion that came up toward the end of this segment. The leaks from within the administration showing genuine disagreement between factions about whether this deal has too much good faith built into it. Hegseth, Rubio, and Ratcliffe reportedly on one side opposing it, J.D. Vance and Jared Kushner on the other supporting it. That level of internal dissension leaking out at this stage tells you that even within Trump's own circle, there is no unified position on what a successful outcome actually looks like. And when you combine that internal chaos with an Iranian regime that has consistently used negotiations to buy time rather than make genuine concessions, the concern that this deal relies too heavily on good faith and trust is a legitimate one. You cannot negotiate a durable nuclear agreement with a regime you describe as untrustworthy by simply taking their word on. The core commitments, the bottom line across this entire segment, is the same theme we keep returning to. An administration that weaponizes law enforcement against political opponents, that has dissolved the independence of the DOJ, that is negotiating a potentially consequential Iran deal, while its own cabinet members are publicly divided and leaking against each other, is not an administration operating in the interests of the American people. It is an administration operating in the interests of one man and the circle around him. And Bakari Sellers said it plainly. That is not what the American dream is about. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one.